You're listening to the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show, where your voice matters. We're glad you're here and believe you will be too. And now, Deidre Reigel with today's guest.
Thank you for tuning in to the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show. Today's guest is CiVon, who is a TV and film writer and an author. Welcome, Max, and thank you for taking time to be with us today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
I am so excited to be talking with you about your book, Ship's Madora, and a word to our listeners about Ship's Madora. It is this fabulous sci-fi mystery romance set, of course, in the future. The Ship's Madora is about the life of human slaves held captive on an alien spacecraft traveling towards Earth with a prime directive to destroy the human population. Now, right there, you've got me. Right there, you just got me, because it's in the future, and, of course, the future is unknown, and here you are creating the future. So my first question to you, Max, is here you are living and working in Los Angeles, and for years you've been successfully delivering scripts to the major networks. And here you have all this extra creativity and time and energy to create many other products, one of them being Ship's Madora. So the first question I have for you sounds pedantic, but I'm genuine with it. What was your inspiration for creating this book?
That's a great question. Thank you. So, Deidre, this was a script that I had written in 2003. I had written an independent film that I had hoped to produce and direct, and I started with the idea that what would happen on Earth if all of a sudden SETI, or one of these groups that listens for information from space, all of a sudden heard a human voice calling out and saying, the Earth is about to be attacked. Prepare. This is not a joke. This is really going to happen. And did it and the message was received in such a way that it was absolutely true and believable. What would happen on Earth? And so I think it would be a little bit of chaos. Then I flipped the story, and I said, well, what if it was a human who was on a spacecraft and they had this information and they somehow managed to broadcast it out, but it was going to cost them their life. It was clearly something they could do just once for some short period of time, literally like a burst, and that person would then obviously be killed. And they would never know how Earth reacted. They'd never know if their message got through. They'd never know anything about what happened to the message. Literally a sacrifice for the human race.
Indeed.
And that was the essence of my central character. And what I did with the book is I flipped it. My central character, Quentin, never, ever knows whether his message got through or not. And that was the essence of the book, and I mean, it was the essence of the movie that I wanted to do. And as I said, 2003, the book came out last year.
A lot goes into writing a book, Max. As an author myself, my book took 9 years to create, and so that's when you know the value of the creativity and the development. So let me just share with the audience how I came to know Ship's Madora. A couple years ago, I was in the recording studio with our mutual friend, Patrick Baker, and I saw this hardback book laying on one of the tables in the studio, and I was drawn to two things that I think our listeners will also be drawn to when they really want to buy the book, and I'm hoping that they do because it's such a fabulous book. The title, Ship's Madora, I had never heard of a Madora. I thought, what is a Ship's Madora? And I had to find out. The second thing was the artwork on the cover. Just stunning. It just threw me in. So I borrowed the book from Patrick. You didn't even know about that at the time.
No, I didn't.
And my life stopped for 2 days as I read through this book and looked at all the layers of humanity in space. And, of course, this is what I love about sci-fi is it helps us look at the human juxtaposition, the human condition. So you talked about your central character, and, of course, there are several of them. And, you know, this radio show is about hope and healing. And yeah. I think one of the things I love about sci-fi is it gives us humans hope that we can solve our problems, we can preserve our life, we can create something better for ourselves. And so in this wonderful book, your central characters are able to find hope in small things, and their lives are anything but pleasant, in fact, barely livable. So they find hope in the small things and the relationships with each other. So how did you show us that? How do you have that feeling of creating hope for us?
I know what you're saying. So Quentin, since he's my central character, I'm not giving anything away to the reader. Quentin doesn't die. He fully expects to die at the moment because the first page of the book is he's making this call. From there, we get to know Quentin and his life and his enslaved life and the rules of the ship, the rules that he lives under, how he's being monitored. Then we find out there's a few other slaves and that they're also under similar rules. And as you started to say, they have so little. And what I really found interesting, and I do let my characters tell me what's going on. They inform me. I know it sounds, so many writers say this, and I guess it's the truth, but for me it really is the truth, that my characters have a lot to do with their growth and development. And what I realized is how Quentin and the other, his immediate circle, how little they had and how grateful they were for how little they had. And the irony that in some ways the less you have, the more you value it. And you put that in comparison to what we have here at this moment in time in human history where so many have so much. And there's a tremendous amount of gratitude that that my characters display in the book. I don't know, does that answer your question?
It really does. I would love also for you to share a small example of that. And what really struck me as I read was this idea of where the central characters live in this tiny cubicle, but the one luxury they have is hot showers. And when I read that, I was stunned that you would put that there. Do you mind to share with our audience what that significance is?
Yeah. Well, so I don't want to, I'm going to work very hard in our conversation not to give too much of the book away.
Sure.
Because it's a true mystery. And I should also say, and I'd like to say, if you'll let me, that this book is illustrated. There's 70 very meaningful illustrations in this book, and they're photorealistic illustrations that and it was illustrated by CiVon, who is my son and who is a fantastic illustrator artist. And what we really tried to do is we tried to find just a few places in the book where you'd want to see something. And so to get back to your question, as I engineered the ship, because it has to travel at a very fast speed in order to accomplish the things that it accomplishes. I'm a sci-fi. I'm going to ramble a little bit, Deidre, because I think I need to.
Oh, go for it.
in engineering, I'm the kind of sci-fi writer that I don't believe in. I believe in real science. I believe in writing a book that is based on real science. How long it takes for a signal to get from his spaceship to Earth. It's years, okay? It's not, he sends the signal out, it's years before it arrives on Earth. How fast something can travel, how the distance between planets. Very realistic. I try to be very realistic, not boring, but just enough to say this writer knows his science. And one of the things that I did, I'm getting to your water question, one of the things that I did was in engineering what the spacecraft, how it could travel and move, I realized it needed a very large engine and a propulsion system, and that propulsion system needed to be cooled, and that cooling system would have to be massive, like the size of a small ocean. Kind of massive. And what that would generate, because you're cooling the engine, it would generate an abundance of hot water, and therefore having water and having warm water would never be a problem. And so the ship on the inside, because it is a planet, not a planet, a city size. Think of a city. It's a city-size spacecraft. That would be the best picture of it. But this city-size spacecraft in the interior has a lot of fountains, waterfalls. There's a lot of water in it. And the alien race that is enslaving these humans, they're a very restrictive. They don't believe in anything that would create pleasure or joy. And they're unaware of how much pleasure and joy the humans get out of warm water. And so even though they live in these tiny little cells, they have these massive showers that they can regulate, and they can take almost a steam bath. They can take a warm shower. They can sit for an hour and meditate under running water. And it is now we're getting back to what you're grateful for, and that is this one thing, the ability to interact with as much water as you want to, really keeps these humans grounded. It's what they're so grateful for it, and so now, does that answer that question? It was a long journey.
It was a beautiful journey, Max. One of the things I was struck with in the book was the almost, I stopped short of saying cruel, but the very cold and difficult circumstances our human characters are living with. The very act of being able to touch.
They have an electronic, again, or you learn this early in the book. They've been implanted with what I call a crown, and that crown controls so much of their life. One of the things it controls very, very powerfully is any sense of touch. If you touch any other human, you are going to suffer incredibly. So they have learned that they can't touch, and so you've taken what is an incredible human aspect, which is our ability to enjoy hugging and holding and touching, and that's been taken from us. So how do you deal with that?
Well, in this book, you do deal with it, and one of the wonderful comments about your book was that it's incredibly sexy, and it is. And so, without giving anything away, but to entice our readers, you really need to buy this book and look how carefully Max CiVon has crafted these scenes so sensuously, where these characters do manage to circumvent the inability to touch, and still they can fall in love, and still they can express themselves.
They have a fully functioning romantic life, which their captors have no idea was possible. The human imagination, the human ability to, and the human desire to be connected to someone else, to fall in love and have a relationship. And as slaves who've not known any, I say that they're human and that they're slaves, but they've never been to Earth. These human slaves were raised in space and never had any experience with Earth. In fact, very few of them actually even know of Earth. But they still sort of inherently or instinctively or intuitively, they've evolved this romance and love and desire and a social structure. And thank you for saying it's complex. Lots of people have really praised the book, Deidre, for the combination of mystery and romance. They go, the mystery, I've had people who read a lot of books tell me, I never saw the next chapter coming. that through the whole book. I mean, it's not.
That's right.
Yeah, it's not. It's just I didn't see from chapter 3 to chapter 4. I didn't see what was coming, and they really complimented me on the complexity. But it's readable. It's the chapters are short, and it's a very readable kind of complexity. But I turn the story. The story moves, and the mystery continues.
Oh, it does. The story turns very quickly. The mystery deepens, and of course, the ending is a big surprise that I don't think any of us saw coming. It literally took my breath away. And again, I was, as I say, my life went on stop for 2 days because I couldn't put the book down. So I think I may have canceled a recording session over this book, Max. I'm not sure. So the golden rule comes in to the book, and I'd love for you to just tease our audience with how that golden rule appears and how it's elevated, if you will.
Yeah, I really work very, very hard in everything I do, whether it's a TV script or it's a movie script, and in this case, a book. I try so hard to not preach in any way or advocate in any powerful way. I really am a writer who's trying to entertain. I mean, my book is really about entertaining, and I want to. It's like so many times I wish I could read my book for the first time like everybody else. I wish I didn't know that happening. Because it's like this is so good, and I want to. And I wish I didn't know what was going to happen. And so I'm getting to your question, the golden rule. One of the things, though, that I think is so fundamental to the human existence, whatever faith, whatever religion you follow, the fundamental do unto others as you would wish to be done unto yourself. And I'd like to think that was almost a human disposition, that humans who were born in deep space would still gravitate towards that concept. And our central characters, not everyone. Listen, there's a lot of bad people. We haven't talked about all the bad people. There's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of danger. There's a lot of bad people, and people die. Okay, this is not Goldilocks. Okay, but our central character really comes to the golden rule and that sense and tries to live that way, trying so hard to do the right thing and be the right thing. And it's the struggle, the internal struggle versus what the outside world forces you to do. The outside world often forces you to do things that would go so against what you would really wish to do. And I tried to show that. I really did.
Oh, you did, Max. There were times that my breath was literally stopped, and I felt my heart was beating out of my chest as I watched, especially the lead character be in these ridiculously awful circumstances that you put him in, and still his heart beat as a human, and still he operated with a higher principle. Yeah. And the other question that I have for you is my sense of especially Quentin's behavior and his ability to take the high road and be fully human and fully live into the golden rule. Was it affected the other humans on board, and it even affected his alien captors? Is that a fair estimation on my part?
Yes, it is. I'm so happy that you got that and that you came to that conclusion. It really, the book takes place over many years because it takes a long time to travel from space to Earth, and I'll just say we are heading in that direction. I don't want to give any more than that away, but during that journey, the Quentin character discovers a lot about his captors, and he's able to use some of the concepts and the ideas and the philosophies that that his captors have, and turn it on them a little. And it's just like in any group, there's going to be people who are open and receptive to the greater good and things that are really, truly right. And there's going to be people who are closed and they're not going to ever change. But Clinton is able to change enough people through his own actions and through his own self-sacrifice and through the way that he lives his life that he affects some of the alien crew, and over time they sort of come his way.
Mm-hmm. I found it so inspirational, and at that particular time in my life, I was dealing with a bit of a stressful situation where I felt that I needed to take the high road, and there were days that it was very difficult to maintain that golden rule mentality. And right. I need to share with you and the public freely that book, reading that book, was for me the inspiration and the fortification that I needed at that point in my life to maintain my golden rule behavior and status and mentality. Wow. And for that, Max, I thank you enormously. And, of course, you did not even know at that moment in time that I was in possession of that book, courtesy of our friend Patrick Baker. And it was truly a helpmate for me for weeks and weeks upon weeks to get through some place in my life.
Such a delightful thing to have someone say, and I really appreciate hearing it.
I appreciate the book enormously. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to say that I have had such a pleasure, such delight to speak with Max CiVon today about his book, Ship's Madora. I'd like to tell you, the listeners, where you can get this book. If you go to www.CiVonmedia.com, you will come to Max's website, and you'll notice some of his other projects as well, including Ship's Madora. And let me just go over that website again. It is www.CiVonmedia.com. And CiVon is capital C, small I, capital V-O-N, media.com. Again, that's capital C, small I, capital V-O-N, media.com. And you'll see Ship's Madora. And by the way, Madora is spelled M-A-D-O-R-A. So, ladies and gentlemen, our wonderful listeners, I encourage you to go to Max's website, go to Amazon, and purchase this book. Whatever you invest in time and money will come back to you in wonderful ways. It's available in hardcover. It's available in ebook format for the very small sum of $2.99. And Max, I think you would like to just add to my comments, if you will.
Well, thank you. I love to hear from readers. I love that people embrace the book and truly come and tell me how much they enjoy. They said sometimes you think you know how something's going to end, and they just didn't know how this was going to end. They were, the amount of amazement that people express amazes me. I'm so grateful. And we are writing another one. We're halfway through another book.
Wonderful.
But we've maintained, after months and months and months, a full 5-star review on Amazon. I mean, I was told, okay, well, you might get some 5 stars to start with, but it's going to go to 3.5. You might stay at 4. Don't be surprised and don't feel bad. This is 6 months. It's still solid 5 stars all the way across. Reviews have been amazing. So thank you for this chance to tell people about the book.
Oh, Max, you're so welcome. Thank you for sharing. And I'm going to see if I can twist your arm to be on this show again at some point soon in the future and tell us more about what's coming down the pike.
Consider my arm twisted.
Max, so good talking with you today.
Okay.
We've been talking with Max CiVon today. Max, take care of you. And to our listeners, have a blessed day. And blessings on all of us here on this wonderful planet. So long now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the show and host. This podcast and its content are not intended to diagnose or treat any medical or mental condition or substitute for proper professional care in this regard. You've been listening to the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show, where your voice matters. We hope you have enjoyed this podcast and found inspiration for your own life. If you would like to be a guest on this show, please contact us at drhoperadio@gmail.com. That's drhoperadio@gmail.com. I'm Oliver Dill on behalf of all of us here at the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show, wishing you a day full of joy and goodness.